In the studio with me is Ari Rabin-havt, and I'm so pleased to have you with us.
Thanks for having me.
You are. I used to have your bio here. What's the name of your show?
The Agenda on Sirius XM.
Thank you. On Sirius XM, 6 to 9 a.m.?
6 to 9 a.m.
Monday through Friday, and on the same channel that we're on right now.
127.
Sirius Progress. There you go. And so, anyhow, we've got a lot of stuff we can talk about. We can take some calls here, but I just wanted to check in with you. What do you see as some of the big issues of the day? What are the things that are on your mind
today?
Yeah.
Well, first we have Barack Obama's overtime proposal,
right?
Which is really great, and I was really happy about it. And then I sit here saying two things in the back of my head, and I hate being a pessimist, but I have two things. One, why did it take 6.5 years to do this? Something that was obvious to an obvious problem to everybody.
Right. He could have done it on day one.
Yeah, it's a piece of regulation. It's an outdated piece of regulation. It needed to be updated. Part two, this comes after TPA. This comes after fast track. So you kind of screw over workers and then toss them a little something.
Here's a bone.
Right. Here's something that you're going to be happy about. And legitimately, look, this will help 5 million people. This will give 5 million people a raise. That's a big deal.
Or it'll cause the employers to cut back on their hours.
Which
might cause those employers to have to hire a few extra people. But
isn't a bad thing, because either they'll have to hire people or, look, having less hours for certain amounts of the economy actually isn't bad, because a lot of people are forced to take these hours. Yeah. It's not like you have a choice for these overtime hours.
Exactly. And I mean, you know, we've solved kind of one half of that problem. It's amazing how conservatives are constantly going, the non-participation rate in the economy has been going up ever since Obamacare. Well, of course it has, because there's a bunch of people, principally in their late 50s, early 60s, who have continued in dead-end jobs just to get health insurance.
Yep.
And now that they can get health insurance without the job, they're saying, screw the job. I'm
retiring.
Yeah, right. Which is a good thing, because it opens up spots for younger people.
Which, by the way, is actually a huge problem right now. Like, no offense, your generation kind of screwed my generation.
Well, I would say the trade policies of the right-wingers in my generation, or my dad's generation, Reagan.
401ks, pensions to 401ks, where people can't retire.
That was Reagan's idea.
Right, where people can't retire because they haven't saved enough. Right. There was a generation, the Reagan supporters, who pushed for these 401ks and then didn't put anything in them. Right. They can't retire now, and that means people in my generation can't advance because those jobs aren't open.
Yeah. Yeah, it's and the generation behind you, the people in their 20s, they're just like toast.
Yeah,
I mean, just toast. You know, coming out of college, $50,000, $100,000 in debt, and no job openings, and you know what they can get is at Starbucks, and it's like, phew, wow. But we shouldn't turn this into a generational war. I don't think
we'll fight it out here.
I don't know. I think the boomers brought a lot to the table, but you know, we were not in 1977 or 78, I think it was. I got enamored by libertarianism, and I thought, this is cool. And I got a bumper sticker that said "Freedom Works," you know, vote for Brown or whoever it was who was running. That lasted about maybe 9 or 10 months.
That's about the time to catch up with yourself there.
Yeah, I did some serious reading and thought, whoa. And then throughout the years of the Reagan administration, I started just watching with this increasing horror as the values of our country were trashed.
Yep.
You know, greed is good got elevated. Reagan stopped enforcing the Sherman Antitrust Act, and the mergers and acquisition mania began.
And crushed unions.
And crushed unions, and cut taxes on billionaires. I mean, down to 25%, and it went back up again. But cut taxes on corporations. Before Reagan, corporations were paying 1/3 of the tax bill in this country, or at least during the Eisenhower administration. I don't know how far that lasted, but it's now 11%.
And that leaves out all his foreign militarism, what we did in Central America. It leaves out Iran-Contra. It leaves out all that other stuff.
Yeah.
He literally saddled us with around the world.
Yeah. Reagan was, I think, I used to say Reagan was the worst president of my lifetime, and I was born in 51, so that would arguably include Harry Truman, who I thought was actually a pretty good president. But now that George W. Bush has come along, it's hard to say that anymore.
Here's the thing. I don't think George W. Bush has the lasting consequences of Reagan. I don't think
outside of the Middle East.
Outside of the Middle East, which is important, but in terms of domestic policy, in terms of the impact, The day before Reagan came into office, the Heritage Foundation had a book of 3,000 conservative policies that they wanted to see enacted. 2,000 of them were enacted during the Reagan administration.
Wow.
That is the level of right-wing shift our country took during those 8 years.
And that's the planning that came about as a consequence of the Powell memo.
Yes.
I mean, which gave birth to all this stuff in 1972.
Explicitly related to the Powell memo. Yeah. I mean, it's all one chain.
Yeah. Yeah, it's in my book, The Crash of 2016. Like the third chapter is all about the Powell memo, who Lewis Powell was, how that led right to the Buckley decision, how that led, and on and on it goes.